show. My apologies, I'm a little late. Today, we are going to talk about a landmark study, a first ever study of vaccine injuries, neurological injuries, and the study by NIH or National or a subdepartment, National Institute of Neurological Disorders. This is the first study of vaccine injury, the preprint, coming out of the official healthcare systems. That's one. Second, it's a small study, 23 patients. It seems like there may be some data revisions that are still needed because we have one of the participants with us here. So Bree Dressen is with us. Bree, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much for coming in on a short notice. So Bree has been participating in this study. She is unfortunately vaccine injured, and she is still even today. Bree, if you don't mind, can I see your arm? Yes. So even today you had the IVIG.
Yes, yes.
Right. So clearly, there are patients who have not recovered, contrary to the impression that the document itself presents. And again, it is a preprint, so maybe that document still needs revisions and corrections and updates. What I'm going to do is this. Number one, we're going to look at the study, and number two, we're going to talk with Bree to see what her experience has been, not only for her own symptoms, but with NIH as well. So, Bree, once again, welcome. Tell us a little bit about you, your current state, and the study that you participated in.
So I was a previously healthy mother of two. I was a preschool teacher. I was healthy. I hiked and climbed. I was in prime physical condition. And so I enlisted in the fight against COVID by enrolling in a clinical trial for a COVID vaccine, AstraZeneca, here in the United States. Within an hour of my shot, I got tingling down my arm. And later that night, I had vision problems, so vision became blurred and double, and it sounded like I had seashells over both of my ears. And that night, I had a typical vaccine response. I woke up in the next morning, the fever and malaise, all that had resolved, but the sensory issues were still there, and they were getting worse. And I got up to get ready for work. My left leg was slumped, and I was walking into the left doorway. It's always to the left. And that day I went to work, and the little kids' voices were really loud. So, by the end of the class period, the sound was so extreme, and my, sensory was just off the charts. And so I parked the kids in front of the TV, and they had a learning channel going, and I was holed up in the corner just waiting for their parents to come get them. That was the last day that I taught. And after that, my symptoms cascaded from there over the next 2.5 weeks. I ended up with severe tachycardia, temperature fluctuations. I ended up with the strange tremors, the adrenaline dumps, the impending doom. It's a very bizarre thing, and I lost control of my legs. I lost control of my bladder. I had to retrain my legs. I landed in the hospital 2.5 weeks in, and I had this horrific internal vibration sensation, and that still is the one thing that it's kind of like it plagues me. That's my least favorite thing. I had the tinnitus. So it just kind of fired off a whole cascade of issues, and I still, to this day, I am better, but I'm still totally dependent on my physicians and my medical teams.
This is the third time I've had to make this video. I lost two road videos where I was walking. I don't know if that's because I had agents on the camera. That might have been the case. Did a lot of talking, walking up and down the trail while I was looking for the trackers. And I just lost those just now, 5 minutes ago. I had to reset the phone, reset the card, reset everything. And this is the video I was on, Jordan Peterson series part 3, and I was playing this in the background, and all the talking that I did was a waste of fucking time. I'm going to try to say some of it again, but I'm not going to, of course, waste too much time on it. I was talking about the Internet of Things and how slow it all is. And these guys in this video that I'm about to play are having problems with their internet. Everybody that I'm watching is having internet slowdowns. If you're watching anything, it'll all of a sudden go on the pause. You lose the picture. Sometimes the voice is still there. Sometimes it's not. Something very interesting coming in over here that I don't usually see. I don't want to make any assumptions yet, but anyways, I was talking and giving a little bit of a background on some things that I went through. When they want to switch us all over, they switched us over really quickly, if you think about it, since the start of it all. Maybe that's why. Maybe it was meant to be that I deleted them, because I actually just remembering some other ones too. So I can go back even a little further in time. Okay, pushing us around from the telephone for communication, the two-way radio, Morse code, even before that, and then eventually the telephone, and then I was talking the other day about the waves, VHF, UHF. I was leaving. There's way more than that too. I was forgot about microwave waves. There's the microwave wavelengths. There's sonar wavelengths. There are all these different wavelengths in our system. It's an electromagnetic nanocarbon system. So on one hand, everyone's allowed to know certain parts of it, but then they're left out of a bunch of other things that are very important. I keep seeing things that I really like. Yeah, I like it a lot. Um, okay, the other day I was doing a video, and I was doing a video. I'm jumping around a little bit here, I know. I was doing a video, and it was a computer generated photograph of a scene, and then in it was a Dalmatian dog, if you all remember that, right? Remember the Dalmatian dog, and you had to find it, and there was snow on the ground, and there was black leaves and shit showing through in the shadows. And I was pointing out that it had human influence. It was done on a computer, human influence. And I could point out to you that the pixels were square as well, right? Not that kind of thing. All right, well, here's an example of something made by the true creator and the true creator's builders that is that same, on that same idea. Notice that in this image, his faces are here: eye, nose, and mouth, right? And then he's got this wisp going off this way. Looks like he got some ear here or something like that. Now, what category it falls in, we can determine. Hold on. I'm trying to get him different directions so I can see him go canine, because then the nose gets long and his nose ends up being here and his mouth is here. Then he's using these two eyes to do that. So that's one. I could bring the cropping tool in and I'll show you. And then if I come over this way, I can get you this one again with the nose right here. You can see up the nostrils. Eye, mouth right here. It's going to be image within image. Okay, so now I'm going to bring you back out here. And I'm going to point out that all the speckles all stay all in here. Also, look at the shape of the speckles. They're triangles. They're triangles. They're always going to be triangles. Just like all these spaces in between what you're seeing as, there's a lot of good imagery in here. Yeah. I could do this video for hours and hours. Back down to this guy. So this whole area, whatever images I want to pull out of there, if I stay within all this speckled area, which I could do, you know, anyone can do that, right? I'll come over this way this time, and we'll get them at a different angle. So there's going to be one image that is going to use up all those speckles. It kind of seems like it's back here somewhere. It's funny. Look at all the faces. Eye, nose, mouth down here. Blowing a kiss. Then I can go over here. It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable that no one's looking. Okay, so again, triangular pixels is my point. The true creator uses triangular builders. And this right here, if he comes out of the corner, I don't know. I don't think so. I think we're going to lose him because I don't know which way the clouds are rolling. But I know I see the faces in there and stuff too. But these two runoffs right here that are coming off, that's what's interesting me about that. And I can see the faces in those as well. Even in those little areas right here, I can bounce my camera because I already did it. And I can pull the faces out of there. But from this angle, where was it? Yeah, see, I can get the faces out of it too. But it seems like there's going to be an angle for those to be used as something else. Anyway. Yeah, just look around for a minute here. So anyways, earlier I was talking about how they slowed us down over the years. So we went from VHF, UHF, and then we worked our way up to the telephone and the cable, and then the internet at one point came in on a phone line. And then about 10, 11 years ago, my story is that I was one of the last ones in Connecticut to have what was called a dry loop. I didn't want a telephone and I didn't want cable. I only wanted a phone line for internet. And so that got harder and harder to do because they kept upgrading the system. And one of the things that was told to us as we went along, everybody, not just me, but everyone, we were told that there was so many people on the line, on those old phone lines were all brittle, and which was strange because they've been updating them and upgrading them for 20 years leading up to that time. So how they were old and brittle is beyond me. They're full of shit, in other words. All right, I'm just gonna press play again. It's banging. It's banging. This is a really good video to go look in on. Jordan Peterson series part 3. And if you take your camera out of your hand and pause the video here and there, look around in there with your camera. Digital collection of electromagnetic nanocarbon from the cloud level. I'm gonna press play while I finish this stupid story that I kind of feel silly about telling for the third time. So they started moving everybody around again when we started with the internet, and their claim was that so many people that were on that phone line using internet. And when it first happened, I said, "Well, that don't make sense." I told the company at the time, so because way less people using these phone lines now because they're all gone over to cell phones. So therefore, there should be more room on these lines for internet, and the internet should not be this slow and this ridiculously slow and always pausing, shutting off, and doing weird shit. And then if you upgrade it to uh, coaxial, these problems would go away. So I bought it, and I was when I first probably 10, 11 years ago is what the way I keep remembering it. So somewhere around there, around 10 years ago was the last time I had that in Connecticut, a dry loop. And then I wanted to transfer it to Mass. But a year before I was ready to transfer it, they kept trying to shut me off. And they told me that I was one of the last ones in all that area, in that whole part of Connecticut. So out of hundreds of thousands of people, yeah, or at least tens of thousands, right? I was the last dry loop. There was only a few dry loops left in the whole state, put it that way. And I was one of them. So they wanted me off and they wanted me to go to coaxial. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. It makes even less sense because now you just told me that 99% of the people that were using internet on the phone lines are now using coaxial. So you're recommending for me to upgrade to coaxial because it'll be faster, better, smoother, and I won't keep getting locked out, shut down, broken down, all that stuff. And very slow, very slow. So I said, it doesn't make any sense, so no, I'm not doing it. I'm going to keep it. So I went in a whole nother year in Connecticut doing that with the dry loop. And it was slow, and it was aggravating, and it was shitty. Then I picked up the bill here in Massachusetts, and I started paying this one, and I wanted it to be a dry loop as well. And they said, we don't do that anymore. There's no one doing that in the whole state. And I'm like, well, that's what I want to do. I'm like, if there's no one else using those lines, then it should be plenty good for me. And it's the same shit that they told me in Connecticut. So they allowed it. They allowed me to do it. Like, it's really shitty, you know. It's really slow. I said, I know, but which I don't understand. Because there's less phones on those lines and there's less internet on those lines. So those lines should be faster than the coaxial, you know. So, anyways, it doesn't make no fucking sense. It never does. But now they're slowing us down again. Now they're slowing it all down again, and it's right in front of our faces. It's happening every day. I've been watching it. The videos are pausing, and it's not just from them being broken into only my computer, because I'm watching it happen to all these people that I'm watching their videos. Videos are being scrambled, videos are being lost. There's certain issues that are happening due to Google and YouTube and that kind of thing, or Facebook or whatever you're on. You know, we got all these Rumble issues. I'm not on Rumble, but I've been hearing about everyone complaining that Rumble's shutting down almost every other day now, for half the day, sometimes the whole day. It's really fucky. And that's supposed to be some freedom site, so you can see what they're going to do with that. It's not going to be such a freedom site. Everyone's going to have to play by their rules, or, you know, or wake up. That's your other option. Just wake the fuck up and see that they're lying to us about everything, and then it'll all go away. All the bad stuff will all go away. Um, yeah, so the other day when I was explaining the different levels, I left out a lot of the different levels of these waves, sine waves. And, you know, I left out the solar, no, I did mention the solar, but then there's sonar. So there's sonar waves, and that's another level. Then, which would be like for underwater, I guess, and stuff like that, right? And underground even. You can use sonar, underground sonar. So there's all these different sine waves that are all these different levels that are everywhere that we've been taking advantage of, but not really paying attention to them all, because all this energy in here, I mean, this is the true creator's work, is my point. And we could all be using it directly because it's all around us. It's the true creator's work. So I mean, we could be using it directly, and we're not. It's really good. The imagery is really good. This is a good video. Jordan Peterson series part 3. If I take the camera off and start going in on all the imagery, it's banging. And I'm not going to because I'm so fucking pissed about the videos getting deleted over and over again. I'm just going to try to play through some people that I've been listening to for the last few days. There's that girl, Squirrel Vibe. You know, she's pretty good.
To help me, the very restricted diet, and I have to go get IVIG. It's $3,500 every 2 weeks, and that's just to stave things off so I can function and so I can try to have somewhat of a normal life. I'm still not working. My body.
It's another thing I was saying in the last video that got deleted here. Yeah, that last one, not too much in that first one, but about what these guys are talking about with the you know what's, and I was not saying the name either or nothing like that. So I don't know why the fuck they just deleted all my videos on me. When everything first started going down and they started making it mandatory, we had a lot of medical industry fighting with each other, but not enough. So all the nurses and doctors that left the field, not nearly enough for what they were being told to do and what they had to do in order to get through it. One of my examples I was using was the 2000, because for some reason nobody else is talking about it. I don't know why, but I brought up three different points, right? Okay, there was one batch of people that I would know, friends. We all had them, and they were all in our lives. So like I would run into one at one store or one place, and then I heard one. You know, I go down to one store on one day, and I just particular memories that I have of all this. And someone that I knew, she says, "Yeah, I'm really worried. Are you going to get it?" And I said, "No, I'm not getting this shit." And she said, "Oh, okay." She said, "Yeah, you know," she had tears in her eyes. And she said, "I'm just really worried." She's like, I'm trying to figure out if I should do it or not." She said, one of my friends died 2 days after. Another friend got it, got real tingly, nerve damage stuff happened to her. And this was right at the beginning of it all. This is, you know, right at the start of the rollouts of all that. And then a third friend who keeps having heart palpitations. Now, these are all young people, you know, 30s to 50s, somewhere in there, so fairly young still. And and then they were just all around me. So everybody was that was getting them. Not everybody, but a lot of people that were getting them ended up dying of what we were told were heart attacks. And then as I started asking them, family members, and saying, "Can I just ask you? I know it sucks and everything like that, but was it the lung shutting down and then the kidneys shutting down and then causing the heart attack?" In every one of those cases, it was yes. Now, the doctors in the medical industry always gave, if someone was in with a pneumonia and severe lung problems, the usual thing to save them for the last 10 years or more. Again, my dates might be off and stuff like that, but anybody can go look these things up. Um, 20,000 cc's, I believe it is, 18 to 20,000 cc's is kind of their maximum that they want to try to use, but it works for a large percentage of the time. Again, I don't want to give out false numbers, but I want to say over 80% success rate by doing that, and you can bring somebody back from a pneumonia. And when all this went down, that was changed, and people in the medical industry were forced, and it's not being talked about on mainstream. The Rising is not talking about it. Clayton Morris ain't talking about it. Russell Brand is not talking about it. Canadian Prepper is not talking. I'll tell you later what they're all talking about. They're talking about their shovels, and they're talking about their gold coins, and another one's talking about their chickens. And then, so we're beyond all that really at this point. No one has time to fuck around anymore. So that was the first batch. We're all dying of heart attacks, what they were calling heart attacks. And the family and friends all went along with this, and they just said, okay. But I paid attention, and they all had pneumonias several times throughout the months leading up to their so-called heart attack. In the death certificates, they all said heart attack. They did not say lung shutting down, then shutting the kidneys down, then having a heart attack. I've seen very few doctors even come out and talk about that fact. Either that or they're hidden from us if they are. But I just want to point these things out as I'm making these videos. Okay, then there was a second batch. The second batch were the ones that got it, and then all of a sudden it was either a cancer, or now you're diabetic, or now you're chronically ill with some other type of sickness that got blamed on the fact that so many things were closed, including doctors. So, in other words, these were all sicknesses that would have happened anyway, but they were just missed. And because they were missed, you were prevented from early intervention. So, therefore, that's why there's no turnaround for you now if you have cancers or things like that, because they've already gone from the prostate to the bone, and therefore once they're in the bone, it's game over, and you maybe get 1 to 6 years depending on what kind of torture you want to go through, whether it's chemotherapy or whatever, because they're all fucking torturous. Blood transfusions and all the fucking shit that everyone's got to go through. It's crazy. So that would have been number two, and those were denied. Um, Again, they were denied to come from the you know what. They blamed it on the fact that you didn't get to the doctors in time, and then in that same category, in that same batch, you had a lot of young people that got blamed on as well. There was a lot of young people that even after they got the shot, they were if something bad went wrong, I gotta be careful about how I word anything, because I think that may be why they shut my videos down. What's amazing is they shut the videos down while I'm making the fucking videos, and then it disappears. That's the funny part. Anyways, so I've got these several people that I want to make videos, include them in the series. I don't know who the series is going to be to. Probably still Brianna so far, I guess, because it doesn't really matter at this point, I guess.
Is still, like glass. And so, but I am hopeful that things will improve.
We too, and praying for you for complete recovery. Um, can I have a little levity and say that at least from the study's point of view, you have recovered,
Right. This is
right?
what
So if
cure
I,
looks like. So, yeah.
so this is what I wanted to see. So quick references. This is drbean.com. Here is the study that we are going to look at. This is their PDF. Then there are certain links here which talk about the study and its further implications. We have Dr. Nath. I believe Dr. Nath, and Bree, please correct me. Dr. Nath was the one who is corresponding author for the study and helping with running the study. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. He was the principal investigator on the study.
Got it. So you were in contact with him and his team.
Yes. He was the first one we made contact with in January of 2021. So that's what started the study.
Got it. And before going into the details of the study, the audience here, the cool beans here, look, they're saying that we have 23 patients. So they had 23 patients, 92% females, median age 40 years. And the important thing that was worth looking at is the following. Right off the bat, I wanted to make sure that we see this. If you see here, they have grouped these 23 patients in no treatment group or corticosteroid group, long taper, corticosteroid short taper, and IVIG. I believe Bree is part of the IVIG. Plus, you had
So that's the thing. I mean, that's what I mean. They were only allowed to give out 2,000 cc's of steroids. So there were a certain amount of doctors and nurses that were questioning this. They'd be debating with each other about it, and because of their debating about it, they would lose their job, whether they left on their own. In a lot of cases, they just said, all right, I'm not going to fight the system because they're going to have a write up of me with my face in the newspaper or whatever, or I'll be on social media with my face on there saying that I'm a murderous nurse and who refused to, you know, it's crazy, man. And I can't even talk about it because everything I say is gonna, because I'm thinking here, standing here thinking, listening to these guys, and I'm like, I want to talk about the third thing, but then that I got to be real careful about as well, because there's these three things that are totally ignored. That the lungs shutting down, the kidneys shutting down, the heart. That is a big one. No one is looking at that. No one's talking about it in mainstream. Not, there's a few people. I mean, there's a few people because that's who I heard it from was the few doctors that I'll try to find them. I wrote so many names down of people that I had been hearing just so I can use them as backup while I'm playing my remasters through, while I'm remastering these videos, which in the last few videos, I had the cropping tool all over this fucking thing. I was digitally extracting all the imagery for you really good, but I'm so aggravated that I'm not going to be able to really do that again. I'm just going to let it run through. And I'm going to suggest that anybody else coming to my videos, you pause and play and pause and use your cropping tool to go around and look around in there. I mean, I see it all anyways, no matter how we do it, but I know that I'm watching the videos back and I'm seeing that the remasters are pretty clear, more clear than they were when I used to do it. I just been learning how to throw lights and shadows around, that's all. So, I'm just gonna play this.
Steroids as well, correct?
Correct.
And here, what they're saying is that IVIG number was 3, full recovery after 12 weeks, that is about 3 months. They're saying all 3 have recovered. Now, Bree, at least from this data that they are presenting to the world, they're saying that you have recovered,
Right.
but you have
So it
not
looks like
recovered.
no. Nope.
So tell me this,
I have not.
this 12 weeks, when was this? So when
And this is what I'm saying about the bird flu. So that's what they're gonna do. So again, you're listening to these stories right now. They're letting some of them leak out. I don't know. They're being very careful about what they say and how they say it. Everybody is. And even then, a lot of people are getting shut down, locked out, and everything. But they're going through it anyway. They're going to go through with mandatory vaxes. They're going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing all this. And then now we got the bird flu coming out. And I know that I've talked to people on the street about this and explaining to them that they're gonna just make everybody kill their chickens. It's the same way they were gonna make everyone kill their cats and dogs and stuff like that. Uh, so you can try to say that, oh, my chickens are my pets or whatever. They've already been doing this for a very long time, going through the treacherous freaking lockdowns really on our lives, really. I was explaining the other day about the 6 chicken rule and no more roosters under 2 acres and all this kind of shit. And they got limits on how many pets and animals you can have in your house. That's why when they do their surveys and want to know how many people live in your house, they also want to know how many pets you own, how many birds you own. They want it all. And they'll know that anyways by what you're buying. If you're buying cat food, cat litter, if you're buying dog food, if you're buying bird food, they know what pets you have just by your cards that everybody uses. Nobody uses any cash anymore anyway. And they're just going to make all that stuff outlawed anyways. They've been working on it a long time. It's all here now. It's all happening now. Don't think that it's going to happen someday. It's been happening, and now it's being thrown in our face. And we just keep taking it and taking it and taking it. 7.8 billion zombie slaves. And when they pull out the reason for the bird flu is, if you look and pay attention right now and go look around, you'll find the information. But it's this version of the bird flu they're admitting is transferable to humans, right? That's what's going to make it different. That's why they're going to have permission and a moral right to tell everyone in the United States, because they're already doing it in other countries. They're already doing it. You have to kill your chickens because your chickens are spreading, bird flu to humans. So everyone's chickens got to go, roosters got to go, everybody. So you imagine what's going to happen here. And then the only chickens that are going to be allowed to be fed to us are going to be a lot less than what it used to be. And same thing with eggs. But they're going to come from the main producers and the main manufacturers, obviously, right? Whether everything's genetically modified, and it can all be controlled for our safety. That's the way they're going to play it. And you all know that's the way they're going to play it. Anybody playing games still and watching Fox News or, any mainstream media and going to try to come up with, get away from it. Shut your TV off. Get away from it all. And just go look at the system for what it is, like I'm trying to show you so you can see it. You're not going to go along with the bullshit anymore. They're hitting us in every which way. So yeah, there's going to be plenty more viruses coming out, and they've told us this. This is not me making shit up. If anything, me talking about this puts me at risk for talking about it. That's why I can only say so much about it. There are a lot of factual things that you can go get for yourselves and look, but nobody goes and really looks. That's the thing. Um, at least that's my experience so far, anyways. Family, friends, people in my life, people on the street, whatever, whoever, people you meet, they're all still living in the zombie comatose state. It's almost like as if they want to just ignore it all the way through the end, so they don't have to experience any of the end, I guess, or something. I don't know. It's bad. It's really bad.
When did they start? How did this come together that you had the vaccine? Unfortunately, you got injured. How did you contact NIH, or how did they contact? What happened? Can you tell me? I want to understand. They are declaring you recovered. When was that? How did this whole thing transpired?
So my husband's a PhD chemist. So right as soon as I got sick, he started combing through research, trying to figure out what was wrong with me, because obviously my doctors had no clue. And the drug company was not talking. Actually, the first time I ever heard directly from the drug company was 3 weeks ago. So that's a long time to figure this out on our own. So he reached out to scientists all over the world. We reached out to Germany. I sent my blood to Germany December, so a month after my injury. And we started getting the ball rolling on figuring out what was going on. At this time, we thought I was the only person that had this type of reaction, so I thought it was an isolated incident. So we reached out to the NIH essentially to report this injury because we were kind of questioning what AstraZeneca was doing with my data. And Dr. Nath responded within 24 hours. They took it very seriously. We had a telehealth within a couple of days. And before we knew it, we were sending, samples across the country, and they were considering trying to figure out when I could come out for further evaluation. And unfortunately, we all know what happened after that. It turned into a cascade of patients, tens of thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands, And so they got bombarded by people after me. And so they had more than enough of a study group that they could pull from. So they picked who they wanted to bring out. And I was one of I feel I was very lucky to have been chosen to participate in this study and be able to go out in person for further evaluation and treatment. And that happened in mid-June. So I went in mid-June. They did a full workup. I was there for 8 days, and it ended with 5 days of IVIG. And then we did follow-up for several weeks over telehealth. and we tracked our data every week. We sent them a new update on our condition, what was working, what wasn't. And we were supposed to go back out in September, and our follow-up appointments got canceled. And by December, it was radio silence.
They simply cancelled it. So
Yes.
so it is just baffling for me. So maybe they internally said, "Fine, these guys have recovered, guys and gals have recovered. We're done, and no more need to follow up."
But nobody
Did they tell you
recovered.
that we're stopping the follow up? We're done, but they just radio silence.
No. Yeah, it was just radio silence. And then we learned through the grapevine. I got an email from NAP in December. He said, "We're not studying this. Stop sending people this way." Um, but they knew the exact state of everyone's condition because we had to precisely track what was happening in our bodies with this preset set of conditions. I believe they drew that from the lung hauler scale that they use through the World Health Organization, set up this symptom scale for lung haulers, and that's what they used to track our progress. So they knew that we were not 100% recovered. They knew people were struggling. They knew that we were not back to work. So
This is so sad. So let me tell you a few of my events in a today and yesterday. The study came out. This study, it became such a big buzz that hey, NIH and the National Institute of Neurological Disorders, NINDA, this is their first study, and they are talking about the vaccine injury for the first time ever. Somebody from the government organization is actually presenting a study, and they're saying everybody recovered, and we gave them corticosteroids, some with the long taper, some with the short, and with IVIG. So that's it. And here I'm sitting with a participant who is saying that number one, you got your treatment even today. Number two, you're saying that even others have not felt better. And number three, I can tell you if somebody is vaccine injured, just corticosteroids is not going to have them recover because corticosteroid is a temporary suppression of the immune system. It does nothing else. So
I agree.
as much as I was
And that's what we've
excited,
seen, and that's what I've experienced as well. So
That's why yesterday when the Canadian prepper, video I was doing in the Canadian prepper was on there saying that he ate a bad salad and he was sick. But then he mentioned he had a fever. You're not going to get a fever from food poisoning. It's a different type of ailment. But again, I'm not subscribed to his channel and anything, so I didn't want to bust his balls. But he's on the wrong road, so hopefully he's okay today. But if he had a 102, 103, it had nothing to do with the salad. Maybe it was separate, but if he gets one of the viruses, they kick ass, man. They're pretty tough to get through anyway. The virus themselves.
yeah, I was excited that for the first time, one, there is a recognition, and number two, there is a solution that they're saying, hey, 12 weeks later, we are good. And here we are seeing that there is not the best update. It bothers me. So tell me this, I'm gonna open this table once more. They said that corticosteroid long taper, corticosteroid short taper. Did you get a corticosteroid dose as well?
I did, and I didn't get a taper, and it was the biggest mistake of anything that I've tried so far. So I did 1,000 milligrams of IV Solu-Medrol for 5 days, and I felt pretty good when I was on it. I was surprised at how good I felt. Like, that's a lot of medicine for my body, but I made it, but I crashed really hard after, and my neuropathy actually got worse when I came off just suddenly. So, yeah, the steroids are concerning to me personally, but
So you were. So was your.
They are concerning, and the only thing is in an emergency for the lungs shutting down, it seems to be the only thing that would bring them back. That's not the problem she's having. Hers is a different issue also. Different than the Canadian prepper, different than.
Course 3 days, a short course, was it a week?
Mine was 5 days.
5 days.
5 days in a row, IV Solumentrol.
Very interesting. So it's very confusing looking at the data, and that data is in opposition to what I'm hearing from you as well. Is it
Right.
possible, again, we don't have the rest of the patients. I think I'm going to request you, if possible, to figure out where are the rest of the patients and talk with them as well. Do you think that they are feeling better? Is it that you are an exception and you're not feeling better, but others have? What is your.
So I know at least half of the participants in this study, and none of them are better.
Okay, so that bothers me. So I want to go to this page number 9 that you asked me to look at. So I'm so sorry for the audience that instead of looking at the study itself, I wanted to see various parts of it. I wanted to